Welcome to this episode of Ask Earl Anything, this week from Studio B. I shot my first drum cover in Studio B this week. First drum cover in a long time. It's actually the first time I've used a 6-mic setup in Studio B. I purchased a snake for for this room, so I could actually shut the door and actually record drums in here. So it's not as studio perfect, you know. I still got some stuff off to the side I gotta clean up, a couple other things, but I thought it might be a nice different set for this week's show. This week I have a few questions. I think I might have 5 questions, okay? But let's jump right on into the show. The first question comes from Michael Perry, and I was going to bring this in for the show starter, but I didn't. And if you watch my videos, Michael Perry asks a very interesting question about one of my angles. One of my favorite angles for shooting videos is over top of this shoulder, especially when I'm on my main kit in the studio. So the question is, great song, great drumming. For the next Ask Earl Anything, what's the deal with the wooden washboard? Is that a hand percussion item? I know some old school people used to play a washboard, laugh out loud. So if you know any of my videos where I'm shooting off to the side, a lot of times over in the corner by the computer rig and my mixing board is a washboard. And Michael's asking me, why do I have this washboard? Well, the answer to that question is, number one, my wife bought the washboard when our washing machine went down years ago. And because the washboard was sitting next to the washer dryer, which is right outside the studio, by the way. There's a washer dryer out there that we used to use all the time, but we've since moved the washer dryer. We have a washer dryer set up in the main house for the first time about 5 years ago or 4 years ago. We put that in. The washboard, I saw it one day. I said, you know, this is a percussion instrument. Let me drag it in. So it's been kind of a fixture in my studio. I've never actually played it on anything. You need thimbles and stuff to kind of get that scratching thing, and I was going to try to goof around with it a little bit, but I really don't have the skill set on it. So in actuality, the washboard is really a washboard. It was bought for that reason, but it just kind of something that's just another one of my percussion instruments in my studio that I have hanging around. I love percussion instruments, and my wife knows it, so what you will see in my studio a lot of times is just lots of different percussion instruments, from djembes to ceramic drums to cajones to all kinds of hand percussion. You've seen my gongs, the concert tom kit here, different toms, different, whatever I got hanging around. I got stuff all over the place. So percussion's one of my things. My congas are over here in this shot today, so that's what I do. But Michael, that is absolutely a percussion instrument that I never use. So that's the answer to that question. No super mystery and no super things. I have no plans of doing a drum cover with the washboard anytime soon. Okay? Thanks for asking. I have done bluegrass albums, but I've never thought of bringing that out for a bluegrass album. All the bluegrass albums I've done have been me recording it, being the recording engineer and not playing any drums on them. So it's kind of interesting. Next question comes from David BCG. The question for the next show: do you know Travis Orbin? Thoughts on his setup? Have a good weekend. Well, the answer is I don't know Travis. I really don't even know his work. I watched a few videos of his on YouTube because you sent me his name. The one thing I saw that was kind of unique to Travis, but is not unique to a lot of young drummers today, is the idea of playing with a floor tom and a snare drum and no small tom. Now, I'm a huge fan of the 4-piece kit. I am definitely not a fan of the kit without the tom up top. Every once in a while, I try to play that setup. I don't think I've done one in a video yet. It's just not my thing. But he plays a lot of stacks and choked cymbal scenarios, and that's his thing. It is a vibe that a lot of young drummers that are big on YouTube and Instagram love to do. They play these kind of funky grooves and lots of notes. and they play it all over these cool little sounding stacker things, which a lot of guys today can buy, and now the cymbal companies are all making stackers. So that's his vibe, that's his thing, but I haven't studied his playing in any way. He seems like a great player, so I have nothing bad to say about his playing. The few tunes I watched were okay. I'm not real impressed with a lot of chops these days, and I'm not real impressed with a lot of the Instagram players that just play stuff. I don't know. And I think one of the interesting things I'm finding out from players that do a lot of sessions and stuff on the internet is that they're not really inspired by those drummers either, you know? Because the guys that are song players, they love hearing songs. And that's me. I'm a song drummer. So I much rather play songs. Okay? So, but his thing, he plays some songs, and it's more that kind of stuff where he's using that setup. But that setup is of no interest to me. But if you want to see a guy that really uses that setup really well, that one bass drum, floor tom, snare drum, and minimalist setup, it's the next question. So the next question comes from, let's see. The next question comes from 2112 Drums. And he says, have you ever listened to the Fearless Flyers? Now, to be honest, 2112, before this question came in, I didn't listen to the Fearless Flyers. But I found out that the Fearless Flyers are part of the Wolfpack family. And Wolfpack is the hot, up-and-coming R&B funk band. They're kind of like the next Snarky Puppy thing. Snarky Puppy really had the fusion funk thing going on, and Wolfpack's kind of taken a minimalistic funk approach. And what I found out is that the Fearless Flyers is another version of Wolfpack with the bass player, but this version has got a drummer named Nate Smith in the band. And Nate Smith is like a drum machine. He's kind of like Questlove on steroids. I mean, he plays a lot of fast stuff, but all pockety groove stuff. And I heard of Wolfpack from my son-in-law, Aaron Knight, who basically turned me on to him a while ago. My grandkids like Wolfpack, so I've listened to some Wolfpack. They've got some very cool videos. And you know what I like most about both these bands is the video thing. They record in a minimalistic way. They record all in a room together, playing together. But it still sounds like today's music. Like they've got sections of tunes like they would recording one section at a time. So I think that's kind of really cool. It's kind of a cool vibe. But I want to listen to them more, to be honest. But Nate Smith has been a no-name drummer for the last couple of years. I've been starting to hear his name in circles. You know, he's one of those guys you want to listen to. Amazing, precise chops, kind of in the vein of Dennis Chambers, but more in the groove-oriented side of it. Dennis has got more chops over the kit, where it seems like Nate Smith plays a lot more like really fast. That 16th note thing, he's really fast at it. He does some really cool things with that. I don't know. He's definitely a guy you want to check out. So we've really identified two guys that if you're into that kind of Instagram kind of thing, or that minimalistic funk R&B of today, Wolfpack, the Fearless Flyers, they're definitely in that ballpark. If you want to listen to the Travis dude, what's his name? Travis Orbin. He's got more of that minimalistic setup, and he does a lot of that kind of stuff too. But I think he's more in that Instagram drummer kind of vein. Where Nate Smith's a jazz drummer too. He plays a lot of stuff. Nate Smith's a great drummer. So pretty cool stuff. There's so much great music out there. Wolfpack is definitely one of those bands that I would recommend. Wolfpack, Snarky Puppy, now Fearless Flyers. These are all bands that I could put on and really vibe on for a while and listen to. So yeah, there's some cool music there. Definitely some cool music, and the way they make music really turns me on watching it on YouTube. Okay, so let's add a couple things to Ask Earl Anything this week. One of the things I want to do is do a shout out. Now, there's a drummer, because I think you guys, you know, I don't do a lot of shout outs, to be honest, but I think this is something I might start adding to my show. But I listen to pro drummers. I like listening to pro drummers. And one of the pro drummers I found a while ago, there's a couple of them. There's one guy named Blair Cinta who I connected a couple questions to on his channel, his YouTube channel a couple of years ago, who has got his name in Modern Drummer this year as a session drummer. He's played with Josh Groban. Definitely don't know Blair Cinta in any way, but he's the kind of guys I like to watch. I like to watch guys that are innovative and are studio players, okay? Well, I found another drummer a year or two ago. Her name is Emily Dolan Davies, and she goes by Emily Dolan, and she plays with the Thompson Twins. She plays with Howard Jones. She's a UK drummer, and she does a lot of session work, okay, for people that hire her out. And one of the things she does, which is kind of interesting, is she actually does OBS live streams of her sessions for people. I think she may be doing it for the artists too, but she's definitely doing it for whoever watches. And I've had some interaction with her on these open sessions. In a couple of them, I've asked questions. She has a little chat thing set up. She's definitely worth checking out. If you're looking at Emily's channel, there's a lesson she did, a lesson and a groove video she did on the song Use Me by Bill Withers with the famous James Gadsden. And I don't know why I lost his name a minute ago, but these are the kinds of things that happen to you when you hit my age, okay? But James Gadsden is another drummer worth looking into, but Emily is a great pocket player drummer from the UK. She plays a lot of 80s bands like the Thompson Twins and Howard Jones, and does some touring in the UK and Europe, I'm sure. And I would just want to throw a shout out to her. I think she's a channel worth checking out and subscribing to. She's pro level, you know, and she's out there doing it. She's making a living at this. So I would just want to highly recommend you check her out. I'm hoping someday, maybe, who knows, maybe I'll end up interviewing her. That's what I'm hoping to do. I've had some discussion with her about that. If I could just figure OBS out and how to tape it and actually make it work, I would love to do some interviews. And she's one of the people I like to interview, pro level. My friend Mike Fasano is another one I want to interview. So and I've got some other pro drummers that I want to interview that are friends of mine. So anyhow, I'm looking to add that aspect to not so much Ask Earl anything, but just another segment on my channel. But she's worth checking out. Great groove drummer. I'm a groove drummer guy. I like listening to groove drummers, and James Gadsden's a groove drummer. So if you've never heard of James Gadsden, you've never heard of Bill Withers Use Me, check that song out. And there's a live video of Bill Withers with James Gadsden on drums playing from the 70s. It's just a pocket song. And why am I bringing this up? Because when you look at Nate Smith and you look at Wolfpack and you look at the Fearless Flyers, where are they taking their musical styles from? They're taking it from guys like Bill Withers and James Gadsden. Okay? I mean, it's pocket. I mean, I was watching one of the Wolfpacks called Deantown. Some really cool music there. And then there was another one called, I don't know if it was 1612, I think is what it's called. I mean, it's just a pocket groove, and it's that James Gadsden 16th note thing. And this whole, that's James Gadsden, guys. I know JR's done it. I know Jeff did it, but Jeff would tell you that he stole it from James Gadsden. So if you know Jeff Piccaro, you got to know James Gadsden. Okay, you know JR, you got to know James Gadsden. So I'm all about the drummers that really brought this to the music. And you go back to Bill Withers Use Me, it's just a pocket groove. It's essential groove for all of you listening. So check out some of these other drummers out there. Really, really important. Okay, now back to regular programming. The next question comes from Andy Sabatina. He says, I think he's from Ecuador, South America. He says, what is your opinion of Canopus Drums? Best regards, Andy. Okay. Canopus Drums. I have never played Canopus Drums. I know they make some great snare wires. A friend of mine uses them a lot. He told me they make some great snare wires. They're from Japan. I don't know if they have a maple line, but I know they got a birch line of drums. And there's a review on them by the Drum Center of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They just did a series on birch drums, and Canopus is one of the ones that they put in there. So if you want to learn about Canopus drums, you might want to check that video out. I've never played Canopus drums, but a lot of guys have kind of played them. You know, there's a lot of guys that when they go to Japan, they play them and they like them. One guy is Harvey Mason. I've seen Harvey Mason playing Canopus drums. I've seen, I think it's Brian Blade, not Brady Blade, Brian Blade, the brother, the older brother. I think I've seen him playing Canopus drums. I know they sell them in New York City and in Chicago at Maxwell's Drums. They sell them there, but you know, they look like very cool drums, very high-end drums. But I heard that they're not as high-end priced as some of the high-end drums. So I think they look cool. I've never played them though, so I really can't give you my actual opinion, Andy. But if you want to check them out, check out that video or search Canopus Drums on YouTube. You'll see some of those drums. Now I will say, in that birch drum video, there's another company that's on there called the British Drum Company. And the British Drum Company comes through the heritage of the Premier Drum Company. And Premier was making birch drums and mahogany drums for years too. And it looks like the British Drum Company is making their version of birch drums with reinforcing rings, which is very highly like the Premier company. Premier used to use reinforcing rings. So, and I think that changes the sound a little bit. The early DW drums had reinforcing rings on them all the time. I think you still can get some of their drums with reinforcing rings. So, something to think about. And my last question is from Kurt Johnson. He says, Earl, any opinion on deep snare drums 7 inches and up? Well, yes, I do have a lot of opinions about deep snare drums. This snare drum is a 6.5, but I have a walnut 7x14, which I love. I have an 8x14 brass, what do they call them? Black Magic snare drums by Ludwig. And I love that drum. It's 8x14. It's just got a big, deep sound. And then I've got a 10x14 marching snare drum, Yamaha, that is, I think is mahogany. All those drums are drums I go to. I like the deep sound. I like having a deep drum. But I don't think you can just have 7-inch drums and have the full range. So if I was a drummer and I needed 3 drums, my choice of drums would be to have a 5-inch drum, something like a Black Beauty or a Superphonic, okay? A good 6.5x14 or 7x14 drum for your wood, and a wood drum for that deep, fat LA sound, snare sound. I think you need those. And I'm a big proponent of the 6.5x14 Black Beauty, or having an aluminum drum like the Superphonic 402. Or my cast aluminum drum, which I have here, which is one of my favorite drums of all time. So you gotta have a 5x14, but you should also have a 6.5x14. And I think when it comes to like a 7-inch drum, a nice wood 7-inch drum is really nice. I like solid shell drums, to be honest, and solid shells are 1-ply drums like Noble Coolies. So I've had a 7-inch Noble Coolie. I have a 5-inch Noble Coolie today. The walnut drum is a solid ply, 1-ply shell with reinforcing rings. Beautiful drum. So that's the kind of stuff you want to think about, you know. But yeah, I love deep drums. Deep drums are great, but they have a certain sound. Once you get over 6.5x14, you're really getting into one-trick pony land, especially when we talk like 8s and 10x14s. They're going to give you that thud. They're not going to really give you crack. You're going to get more of the depth out of it. And that's why most guys buy them, so they have that. If you want the crack, you're going to go 5x14. But there's so many drums today. I mean, having a nice 13's nice. By the way, this piccolo is my son-in-law's. It's not mine. It's a pearl piccolo. I did make one of these once. I actually got a kit and made a piccolo snare drum the same size as the pearl from Stuart McDonald years ago. My friend Alan Levine has it. And yeah, I put an Evans head on it. It's an interesting drum. All right. So, with that said, I think that's Ask Earl Anything for today. Your questions make the show. Thank you so much for watching the show. I appreciate it. Check out some of those shout-outs I did. I think that's it. Yeah, it is. That's it. Anyhow, have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye.